When justice fails, vengeance rises. A former Black Ops assassin, known only as the Angel of Death, Jason Statham, is pulled back into a deadly conspiracy after being framed for a series of high-profile assassinations. A relentless detective, Dwayne Johnson, hunts him down only to uncover a deeper corruption that threatens them both. In a city ruled by shadows, enemies become allies, and the line between justice and revenge fades. Explosive action, brutal combat, and a final showdown will decide if the legend of the Angel of Death ends, or if it's just the beginning. The rain pounded the dark streets, washing away the blood of another target. A lone figure moved through the shadows, his steps silent, his presence almost ghostly. He wasn't a man, he was a legend. They called him the Angel of Death. His real name? Nathan Cross, but names didn't matter anymore. He had been off the grid for years, living in the silence between wars, until now. The news spread like wildfire. The high-profile criminals were being assassinated one by one. The precision, the method, the sheer efficiency. It all pointed to one man. The name Nathan Cross resurfaced in the underworld, whispered in fear. But there was one problem. He wasn't the one pulling the trigger. Someone was using his legend as a weapon, framing him for murders he didn't commit. Detective Marcus Kane had spent years chasing the Angel of Death, determined to bring him down. He had seen the aftermath of his work, the bodies left behind, the chaos he caused. But Kane wasn't just hunting a ghost anymore. The latest murders were brutal, reckless, and messy. Nothing like the cold, calculated precision of Nathan Cross. Something wasn't adding up. Kane followed the blood trail, and with every step, the truth became murkier. There were forces at play bigger than a rogue assassin. Nathan didn't care about the law. He cared about one thing: finding out who was behind this. They wanted him back in the game, and they got their wish. He started with the first name on the list of victims. A crime boss who had controlled half the city's drug trade was found dead in his penthouse, throat slit. Nathan studied the scene. The kill was meant to look like his work, but it lacked precision. The cut was sloppy, rushed. Amateurs were trying to mimic a professional. That was their first mistake. Kane was closing in. He had spent sleepless nights chasing leads, talking to informants, watching security footage. Every path led to the same answer: Nathan Cross. But Kane was no fool. He knew how killers operated, and something about this felt wrong. Nathan was an assassin, but he had rules, a code. This was something else. Someone had turned the city into a battleground, using Cross as a smokescreen. And the deeper Nathan dug, the darker the truth became. The people being taken out weren't random criminals. They were connected, powerful figures in a secret underground network tied to the government, law enforcement, and international arms deals. Someone was cleaning house, and they wanted Nathan to take the fall. He wasn't having it. The moment Kane and Nathan's paths crossed, it wasn't bullets that flew, it was the truth. They stood in an abandoned warehouse, both men sizing each other up. Kane had spent years hunting this man, yet something in Nathan's eyes told him that this time they were on the same side. Nathan didn't waste words. "You're looking for the wrong killer," he said. Kane clenched his jaw, debating whether to arrest him or listen. A sudden explosion tore through the building, cutting their conversation short. Nathan moved fast, dragging Kane out just as the walls collapsed behind them. It wasn't just a setup. Someone wanted them both dead. They barely escaped, running into the streets, sirens approaching in the distance. Kane had a choice: arrest Nathan now or work with him to expose the truth. He made his decision. They hunted in the dark alleys of the city, breaking into secret vaults, decrypting files, and shaking down criminals for information. The mastermind behind it all was a man hidden in plain sight: William Drake, a high-ranking intelligence officer. Drake had been using government resources to eliminate anyone who knew about his private operations. Nathan had been his scapegoat, his legend twisted into a cover story. The final confrontation was brutal. Nathan and Kane infiltrated Drake's high-security compound, fighting their way through mercenaries and elite assassins. Blood, gunfire, and chaos filled the air. Kane took a bullet to the shoulder, but he pushed forward. Nathan fought with the precision of a man who had nothing left to lose. He faced Drake in a final ruthless showdown, fist against fist, knife against knife. Drake was a trained killer, but he wasn't the Angel of Death. As the compound burned behind them, Nathan stood over his defeated enemy. Kane, bleeding but standing, watched as Nathan pressed a gun to Drake's head. The silence stretched. Then, without a word, Nathan lowered his weapon. Killing Drake would be justice, but Nathan wasn't playing by their rules anymore. He turned and walked away. By the time the authorities arrived, Nathan was gone. His legend would live on, whispered in the dark corners of the world. Kane looked at the destruction around him, knowing he had just witnessed something that could never be written in reports. The angel of death had vanished once again, but the city would never forget.